It's Wednesday, August 26. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. A rare and wild twister. A small tornado whips up on Prince Edward Island. Lobster gets caught in a trade trap, and the result is likely higher prices.
Thunderstorms wind down this evening with fair weather in the forecast for Thursday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. A tornado is a rare thing in the Maritimes. Rarer still is catching one on video. But we got just that from eastern Prince Edward Island a couple of hours ago. Take a look. This footage was taken this afternoon in Surrey on the island's eastern tip. The twister launched what appears to be trees into the air. We don't know if they were debris on the ground or ripped out by the high winds. A mid-afternoon storm hit parts of P.E.I. with wind, thunder, rain, and hail. Downpours flooded and closed the operating room at Charlottetown's QEH Hospital, and it is forcing births to be moved to Summerside's Prince County Hospital. So there's a live look, and things look pretty calm in Charlottetown right now. It's currently 23 degrees under blue skies. Let's bring in CTV meteorologist Kaylin Mitchell. And Kaylin, you've got evidence of that hail in pretty impressive amounts.
Yeah, it disappears so quickly, though. And so we looked out Charlottetown there, and there's barely any evidence of it. But it really piled up deep when that severe thunderstorm was moving through earlier this afternoon, accompanied by heavy downpours as well. And this amount of hail on the ground, to me, is almost as rare as basically the occurrence of a weak tornado, which we saw again around Surrey in the east of Prince Edward Island. By the way, I'm not going to really guess as to what on the EF scale that tornado would have been, because for that you just send out basically a damage assessment team to take a look at the wind damage that was done. But even an EF0 tornado can come with wind speeds up to 136 kilometers per hour. So this hail picture was sent in from Kelly Lance, and you can see that hail in around the Charlottetown area, and it looks like it was in size, most of it at least, from dime up until around nickel, though there might have been some quarter-size hail as well with this in the Maritimes. But here's another picture from Paul Knox, and moving that hail out of the way with a snow shovel, which basically is what you had to do if you were going to clear it initially, because it was so deep on the ground. And I think this picture really illustrates this one coming in from Patty McKenna. And look at the depth of that hail down on the pavement there around Charlottetown and Prince Edward Island, and accompanied by a very heavy downpour. So that was part of those severe thunderstorms, which thankfully have come to an end. And severe thunderstorm watches and warnings have now ended for the Maritimes. What's left of the thunderstorm activity just off the coastline now of parts of Cape Breton. There's a few lingering showers. Those are going to continue to wind down as we head through this evening. Much like yesterday, this was driven primarily by daytime heating in combination with some cooler and drier air located above us. So as we're losing that daytime heating, we're losing one of those key ingredients. Now, for the rest of tonight in the Maritimes, what can we expect? Much calmer weather conditions. A few clouds around during the overnight. There will be some fog patches developing like there have been over the past couple of nights, so maybe not quite as widespread around the region. The highest chances for fog tonight and around for the start of the day for tomorrow will be around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and parts of the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. And then after that fog dissipates in the morning, looking at pretty fair weather conditions for tomorrow. Our next weather system arriving on Friday, and Todd will talk more about that when I'm back later on.
Very good. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you, Kaylin. New Brunswick is launching a review of its long-standing ban on hydraulic fracturing. Premier Susan Holt says the trade war and the need to boost revenues has her government examining all options, including natural gas. CTV's Nick Moore has details and reaction.
In our province.
Today, Premier Susan Holt announced her government would launch a review of the ban on hydraulic fracturing, mentioning U.S. tariffs and the provincial economy several times, asked for why the review is happening now.
The times have changed.
New Brunswick's moratorium on natural gas development was put in place nearly 12 years ago.
The events of these past few days have only strengthened my belief that we must look at opportunities here at home.
The province says questions on so-called fracking will be considered from its safety to its science and will include direct consultations with First Nation leaders and communities. Those consultations have already begun.
The indication that they've given us is that they're supportive of the review process. So I think the chiefs are very interested in learning about the opportunity, understanding the benefits, and also learning about the impacts.
A statement from the MTI chiefs issued today says a decision on whether or not to support the idea of allowing companies to come into New Brunswick to pursue and consult on natural gas development will not be made until we have all the necessary data and information to make an informed decision. This cannot happen overnight. Premier Holt was adamant today that a decision hasn't already been made.
The only responsible thing to do at this point in time is to revisit the conditions of the moratorium to determine if this is something that can benefit New Brunswickers or not.
The government plans to announce results from the review by January. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
Seafood has been included in the reciprocal tariffs. It's a complex trade item like autos. Lobster crisscrosses the international border to be processed. Tariffs could make prices soar. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness explains.
Seafood is one of Canada's major global exports. $8.5 billion is sent around the world every year. The country also imports about $1 billion worth from the United States. 40% of that is lobster.
We buy about $400 million worth, give or take, of U.S. lobster every year to process in our processing plants in Eastern Canada. When there's not a lot of harvesting here, we augment the raw material from the U.S.
Basically, the Americans send us their catch, and processing plants here turn it into a number of products, which is then shipped back for them to sell. All of it will be subject to Canadian tariffs as of September 8th.
Our biggest concern is any counter tariffs against Canadian seafood. Obviously, that's the biggest concern. Is there a reaction against our seafood products that we ship to the U.S.?
The uncertainty with our traditional trading partner is forcing the seafood industry to look elsewhere for buyers, but it's hard to replace the American sales. Stuart Lamont is the managing director at the Tangier Lobster Company. They stopped shipping to the U.S. following COVID.
The European market has a huge respect for Canadian seafood generally and Nova Scotia lobster in particular. So we have key clients in Belgium, in Holland.
Non-stop cargo flights also make Asia an attractive partner.
We can ship to China in 38 to 44 hours. Korean Airlines has direct connections to Incheon, South Korea from Halifax, and then easy connections from there.
That's why a number of maritime companies are heading out on trade missions to Asia over the next few months. Jonathan McGuinness, CTV News, Eastern Passage, Nova Scotia.
Here's a CTV web poll tonight. We're asking, would you buy less seafood if tariffs cause the prices to rise? A simple yes or no, or I do not eat seafood, and we'd like you to vote at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Now, maritime fine artists are scrambling too, looking to diversify markets and find alternatives after their work was hit by 50% tariffs. CTV's Anna Madden reports on how one local artist is responding.
Fredericton resident Alicia Nicholson has worked full-time as an artist for the last 4 years. In recent months, 90% of her business has come from the U.S. Now that's at risk.
When I found out the news, I was pretty devastated. And then as time went on, I just kind of was able to work through that.
50% U.S. tariffs on billions of dollars in Canadian goods include paintings, drawings, and pastels. Now, artists like Nicholson are left deciding whether to ship south of the border at all.
Basically, I'm making no money, so it's not worth it for me.
She's not alone. At this private art gallery in Fredericton, staff say the tariffs are just the latest blow to artists.
Up until now, it has been mostly just the economic uncertainty that has created a lot of an effect on collection and on collectors' ability to buy art, both in Canada, in the United States, and around the world. But now there's that added, very real impact that is being felt by artists.
She's encouraging people to support local artists.
It's not only buying, say, for example, a painting or something from them, but also supporting them on, their social medias, visiting them when they're going to fairs, or visiting them when they go to, when they have different sales or things happening as well.
As for Nicholson, she's looking for an American printer to continue selling her work in the U.S., but she won't be able to add garnish and texture to those prints, and selling them through a business south of the border means less support for her local printer. The alternative could be costly.
I believe that that's not going to happen. I will not lose 90% of my business. I need to find new ways to build up my marketing in Canada and outside of the world in different places.
As artists prepare to paint through a future colored by uncertainty. Anna Mandan, CTV News, Fredericton.
After 6:30, we'll speak with Peter MacKay, who, of course, has experience dealing with White House administrations, for his take on all of this. And there's more trade reporting at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Shock and sadness in a New Brunswick village tonight after a long-standing symbol of Acadian heritage was ripped apart in an act of vandalism, possibly for its scrap metal value. Here's CTV's Derek Haggett.
I just couldn't believe it, that somebody would do something like that.
The statue of a priest who was a key figure in Acadian history has been toppled. Père Camille Lefebvre was a pivotal figure in French language education in the late 1800s.
I'm sure that those who did this did not know what that statue meant. Of course, I don't want to go to a conclusion, but they were certainly looking for something.
The municipality says the RCMP are investigating. Lefebvre was the founder of the former Catholic Acadian University of St. Joseph's College. The building was later preserved as a memorial, and Monument Lefebvre became a National Historic Site in 1994. The mayor of Memramcook says he was walking to a meeting around 7:45 this morning when he noticed the gates were open. He was then quite shocked to discover the statue had been torn down.
It's very upsetting for the community. Père Camille Lefebvre played a pivotal role in Acadian history. I mean, he was one of the pillars that really brought higher education to the Acadian population.
The bronze statue was erected in 1914 for the 50th anniversary of the founding of the college and has special meaning to Acadians.
Why would people do that? I understand there's money into copper and bronze and stuff like that, but, you know, come on.
For Father Brian, seeing the statue on the ground is deeply upsetting and offensive.
For people in Memramcook and the Acadian people, it's a very, very serious insult.
CTV News contacted police for details but did not hear back by news time. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Memramcook, New Brunswick.
And vandals have struck at Acadia Park in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia yet again. These photos show some of the damage. The bandstand was covered in graffiti Monday night. 2 memorial benches were also tagged in the process. The park is community owned and maintained. It's mostly cleaned up now, but will need to be repainted. Officials say there are cameras, but suspects were shielded by hoodies covering their faces.
It's frustrating. 100% the most frustrating thing that we have. But we get a lot of support from the community, and we're very proud of that. And people in the community are also frustrated with the amount of vandalism that we do incur.
The fountain was vandalized last night, too. It was likely targeted for, yes, it's copper. Many spigots were taken in the process. The fix will be expensive, probably $1,000. It'll be time-consuming and shut down until then. Halifax buses are still not meeting on-time performance targets, but transit officials insist improvements are on the way. CTV's Callum Smith joins us now. He's at the bus depot. He's going to break it all down. Callum, yet another issue for the beleaguered service.
That's right, Todd. That information comes from the latest quarterly data reported to the Transportation Standing Committee. The yearly numbers went unchanged from last year, with a 71% on-time performance score compared to the 85% target. The final 2 quarters did improve slightly, but as the city tries to push people out of cars and onto transit, the numbers are disappointing to the chair of the Transportation Standing Committee.
We're working on it. We know people want to see faster, more reliable buses. Council did invest last year in additional buses that will be put on the high-demand routes, and that we'll see early next year. So we recognize the issue, and we are putting more resources into transit.
Another bit of optimistic news. Transit staff expect many routes will see performance metrics improved with completion of bus lanes on Bears Road and work at the Windsor Street Exchange. Both of those, though, are long-term projects, and further schedule impacts are expected during construction. Also of note, ridership decreased 8%. Halifax Transit's executive director tells me that that's part of a broader national trend, citing drops in immigration, university enrollment, and overall population growth in the province. But he does say he wants riders to be able to rely on transit, and he's confident the ridership numbers will increase in the future. Todd.
So, Callum, a lot of attention for Halifax Transit at City Hall of late. Of course, we had the situation where the mayor, basically wants some details about buying a new ferry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of focus on it because, again, Todd, congestion being such a big issue in the city, transit seems to be the way to go, but right now there's a lot of work to be done.
All right. Callum Smith at the Bridge Terminal in Dartmouth. Thank you. Time for a break now. Still ahead, Kaylin has information about the incoming weather system. We'll talk a bit more about what happened in P.E.I. this afternoon, too. We'll remember actor Tim Curry, who died today. But first, finding places for the remaining homeless.
There's always going to be people needing a place like this.
Halifax hopes to close its remaining encampments, but how realistic is that?
This is the Campfire Conditions Report brought to you by Pine Acres RV, where customers become friends. In the province of New Brunswick, campfires are currently allowed. In the province of Nova Scotia, campfires in Annapolis County and Digby County, Yarmouth and Shelburne and Queens counties, as well as Cumberland, Colchester, Pictou County, Inverness and Victoria counties. There you can have them between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. For the remainder of Nova Scotia, including Halifax County, campfires currently allowed between 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. And for Prince Edward Island, campfires are currently allowed with domestic brush burning between 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. The next update to these provincial restrictions will be at 2 p.m. on August 27th.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Homeless encampments in Halifax have gone from temporary setups to more permanent sites, but the city says it's on track to close its 2 remaining tent encampments. CTV's Emma Convey asked those still living there just how realistic that is.
Those living at this homeless encampment say new tents are going up every day. But for places like this, the days could be numbered.
There's always going to be people needing a place like this.
The HRM strategy to address homelessness from 2026 to 2028 starts with closing encampments. In a statement today, the city says this is not a new approach. Its focus is offering safe and appropriate indoor alternatives, and supportive housing vacancies remain available. This woman asked not to be identified for safety reasons.
Where do they suggest that we stay? I mean, there's only so many beds in these shelters. I've been calling for quite some time, and they're all full. And you can't stay in these encampments.
Now, since HRM is still on track to close all designated encampments by November of 2027, that gives those living at the Green Road encampment as well as the Barrington encampment just over a year to find alternative options. The thing is, they say there aren't other options, and the worry keeps them up at night.
It is concerning me very much because, like I say, with myself, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know how anybody's going to cope if they close us down.
An information report presented at Council Tuesday highlights 8 strategic actions to address homelessness. Steps include closing the remaining 2 encampments and finding other options. The report highlighted a decline in numbers. 72 people living in the previous 4 last year, now down to 36 between 2 encampments.
The waiting list is anywhere from 2 to 3 years, so therefore you're in a homeless shelter for that length of time. I'm not understanding this. It costs the taxpayers approximately $100 a day per person. Why not give us the money to be able to get an apartment instead of this particular situation of waiting 2 to 3 years of our lives in order to receive shelter?
Mayor Andy Fillmore was also not available for an interview on this issue today. The municipality maintains their team's work to understand the needs of each person that is willing to engage with services. Emma Convey, CTV News, Dartmouth.
Up next, a calmer night ahead for the Maritimes. A few clouds. It's going to be a bit of fog. A fair late August day expected tomorrow before the weather moves in. This is an unusual sight in Bedeck, a large cruise ship that is in port. This is the National Geographic, yes, the same, National Geographic Explorer, and it would make good sense that they would visit to Bedeck because, of course, Alexander Graham Bell was one of the founders of National Geographic. And, of course, his property and his final resting place is just up the hill.
That would have been an amazing cruise to get in there for today, and some very dynamic conditions around parts of Cape Breton today, including the Bredor Lake at times, as we had some severe thunderstorms move through, and of course those thunderstorms creating issues for other parts of the Maritimes.
Yes, let me ask you about P.E.I. Yeah. So this was a system that was Charlottetown and to the east.
That's right. So today,
the rest of the province was largely left alone?
Yeah, Prince County got their severe thunderstorm yesterday. And then the threat area for thunderstorms today shifted further to the east in the Maritimes. So that brought Queens and Kings County into it. And the severe thunderstorms bringing in those tremendous downpours of hail around the Charlottetown area. And then, of course, that tornado around the Little Harbor area. Let's take a quick look at weather conditions across the country. Then we'll go back to the forecast here in the Maritimes and our next arriving weather system. Looking out west right now, it's a lot of sunshine and there's some heat. Southern areas of Alberta right now, Calgary sitting at 29 degrees. Got 27 in Saskatoon and 26 in Regina, 24 at Winnipeg. It's cool in Whitehorse. They're seeing some rain right now, 11 degrees, but warm at Yellowknife, sitting at 22 with a mix of sun and cloud. Calumet right now, cloudy conditions, sitting at 10 degrees. There's some rain moving through parts of northern Ontario through the Nickel Belt region. Sudbury right now sitting at 20. Toronto at 23, Ottawa at 25, and Montreal right now, sunshine and 26. Similar conditions to Fredericton at the moment. Halifax 23 degrees, 22 for Charlottetown, and warm. St. John's, Newfoundland, sitting at 25 degrees. Let's go to the tail of the tape for our next weather system, and this one is arriving on Friday. It's a cold front. Unlike the last one, though, this one doesn't look like it's going to be tapping into that deep, almost tropical moisture off the southern Atlantic, but it will still bring the maritime region some areas of rain and showers. The wet weather developing first through the day on Friday in the province of New Brunswick, where there will be a chance of showers by the afternoon for southwestern areas of Nova Scotia, and then the remainder of Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island expected to get into the showers from that weather system Friday night. One thing about this weather system, as it moves past for the weekend, the humidity levels look like they're going to fall, and by Sunday around the Maritimes, we might be into the lowest humidity we've had over the last several days because it's been very warm and very muggy going back to this past weekend. All right, let's take a look at what's going on our forecast timeline for cloud cover and precipitation. As we make our way through the rest of tonight, it's going to be a mostly clear sky. There will be some fog patches developing. Highest chance of fog around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. Any fog that is around will be clearing up, retreating to parts of the coast in the morning hours. In the afternoon, a fair weather mix of sun and cloud around the maritime region, and I am not expecting thunderstorms for the Maritimes tomorrow. Taking a look at low temperatures in the forecast for tonight, most of the lows in the region will be around the low to mid-teens, a little bit cooler than that up around northern areas of New Brunswick with some low temperatures between about 9 and 12 degrees. And in the forecast for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick, high temperatures between 24 and 27. And there'll be a light northwest wind. And tomorrow down through central and southern areas of New Brunswick, high temperatures again, mostly around the mid-20s, the low 20s on the Bay of Fundy coastline. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures around 24 to 27 degrees. And in Nova Scotia, in the east of the province, it is going to be high temperatures, mostly around the mid-20s. It will be a mix of sun and cloud for tomorrow. Just ignore that. I forgot to update the text there for the east of Nova Scotia, mix of sun and cloud. Northern and central parts of the province with high temperatures around 25 to 27, 24 around Chester and Lunenburg. In the Annapolis Valley, high temperatures near 27 for tomorrow. And on the south shore of Nova Scotia, most of the high temperatures between 23 and 26, 21 at Yarmouth. Looking ahead, coming up Thursday night, late Thursday night, early Friday morning, partial lunar eclipse, and viewing conditions look like they should be pretty decent. There'll be a few clouds around and maybe the potential for some fog patches to develop. The partial eclipse begins at 11:33 p.m. and reaches a maximum at 1:12 a.m. on Friday. So you got to stay up late for that one. Taking a look at our 7-day planner then. Rain showers to that arriving front for New Brunswick on Friday. That's followed by a pretty fair weather weekend and the start of next week. Temperatures next week look like they will be milder. There'll be a chance of some showers on Wednesday. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, coming up on Friday, that front arrives with a chance of showers late in the day. More showers are expected from it Friday night. Saturday, a mix of sun and cloud. Might be a low chance of a shower first thing in the morning in Cape Breton. Then a mix of sun and cloud for Sunday, sunshine for Monday, and Tuesday, a mix of sun and cloud, chance of showers on Wednesday. And for Prince Edward Island, that front arrives mostly Friday evening and night, bringing showers with it. Maybe a low chance of a lingering shower very early Saturday morning. Rest of the weekend, though, very fair. Same thing goes for the start of next week. Todd.
Good looking few days. Thank you, Kaylin. Next, we'll speak with former Foreign Affairs Minister Peter MacKay about the state of relations with the United States. Don't go away.
Okay, so coming up on the show tomorrow, another chance to win some tickets to get off to Magnetic World.
Yeah, that's the rest of the week around 7:30.
You could be seeing Neo, Akon, and Khalid. Good luck.
Welcome back. Suffice to say, a lot of people on both sides of the border are concerned with the state of Canada-U.S. relations, with the trade war, of course, but also with the level of incivility as insults are tossed around. Can something be salvaged before things get worse? Well, few know the intricacies of the relationship better than our guest tonight. Peter MacKay was Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister as well as Defence Minister. He has lots of experience working with White House administration, and he joins us from Pictou County. Nice to see you.
Hey, Todd, it's great to be with you.
Can you believe where we are?
I can, unfortunately, because this has been a runaway train for some time, well over a year. In fact, it goes really all the way back to the first Trump administration. You used the word incivility. We've seen a lot of rhetoric, quite frankly, that doesn't advance the cause for anybody and only does further damage to what I would suggest is a deteriorating situation. It's almost like an abusive relationship where, frankly, we can't leave because of our geography and our overdependence on the U.S. market.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. So you mentioned it was, what, 16, 18 months ago that Donald Trump suggested Canada should or could be the 51st state. Has this trade collapse made us realize, well, maybe he meant it all along?
Yeah, I think we, at our peril, ignore the president's words when he says things like this. As inconceivable as they seem at the time, we better take him at his word. And, you know, it goes beyond the 51st state. It was referring to the previous prime minister as governor, which I note that he's taken to using again, and other members of his administration. But at the same time, and some may not want to hear this, we haven't helped our cause with some of the rhetoric that's come from the Canadian side of the border and some of the actions such as, you know, courting the Chinese for some EVs to come into the North American market, speeches to the World Economic Forum, and now it appears we're going to go to Europe. And there's a very real stick-in-the-eye approach, and it feels good, and I think a lot of this elbows-up rhetoric is a natural response, but it doesn't get us anywhere in terms of the massive economic impact of these tariffs and, you know, further fraying of the relationship where, look, 75% of Canadian product goes into the U.S. They have a similar, you know, trade surplus that comes our way. But, you know, were it not for oil and gas, we would be about equal in the trading relationship. And that's an important point to keep in mind. This is going to harm their economy, you know, as much, except it's so much larger, they have more ability to withstand the body blows.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point I want to pick up on, because last night we had Dow food professor Sylvain Charleroi with us, and he pointed out that the U.S. is, look, it's such a big market that it can find new ways to get what it has been getting from Canada. And he mentioned potash. It may not happen right away. It could take a while, but eventually they'll get it. So is a drawn-out impasse a greater risk for Canada? There's been lots of talk about how this is going to, beat up U.S. consumers initially anyway.
Absolutely, but it's going to beat up consumers and businesses on both sides of the border, and some sectors will be hit harder than others. Obviously, we've seen steel, aluminum, lumber, auto. Those have crippling impacts, particularly in Ontario. But the longer-term reality is prices are going to go up. Inflation is likely to go up. Our dollar is likely to go down. There is, structural harm that's being done every single day. And when Canada puts reciprocal tariffs in place, as they have promised to do, this is also going to cause the price of many things that Canadians buy and rely on to go up in price. So it's really, to use the overused expression, mutually assured destruction if we continue down this path. I've heard very few people, with the exception of our Premier, Tim Houston, talk about the necessity of getting back to the bargaining table. And that means no vacations in Italy, no further provocation from the Canadian government. I'd like to hear more, frankly, from Janice Charette, who is the trade negotiator and was in the room, rather than some of the domestic political calculus that I think is happening around Quebec, the election, Alberta, sovereignty referendum. All of these are factoring in my opinion, to what the government has been communicating, and the communication has not been clear.
Well, on that, should we be getting more details from those negotiations? I mean, we've heard, obviously, from the Prime Minister, he said, why he brought back Madame Charette and Mr. LeBlanc. And, of course, the Americans have their own version of it that we've heard, sort of in salvos that have been fired across the border the last couple of days. Should there be more released from what actually went on?
Yes, I think there should, Todd, especially now that the talks have collapsed. And frankly, some of what the Prime Minister has said doesn't hold water. This reference to the Americans demanding sovereignty requests who we do business with, that's already in the CUSMA. That's in the existing agreement. References to the French language, that's really not about anything other than digital taxes and an aspect that has nothing to do with French language or sovereignty. So yes, clarity, and I would suggest that one way to do that is to bring back Parliament. And P.E.I. has done it, for example. Other provinces are contemplating it. That's the place where the people of Canada get answers, and they deserve answers given the impacts that this is going to have.
One last question. What about procurement? We've got that F-35 purchase looming over the heads. They've got to buy, a fighter jet from somebody. You were defense minister. What would you do?
Here's the short answer, Todd. It's the best plane. It dominates the airspace. If we, God forbid, ever find ourselves in a place where we need to use fighter aircraft, I want the best for our young men and women in uniform who are putting their lives in peril by defending our country. The Americans are flying them now. We would have received, we, Canada, much more benefits had we opted in and made the decision some years ago. Most of our NATO allies are already using them. And will this let politics once again stand in the way of the right decision?
But Peter, if they can't be trusted as partners in trade, how can they be trusted as partners in security and defense?
Well, Todd, I would push back a little bit on that assertion because we share intelligence with them. We have Canadian Forces members embedded in the American forces. We just saw a Canadian receive a very high recognition in terms of a medal for the work that was done in the evacuation of Americans from the Middle East. And so this is a high point that doesn't get enough attention. Canadian and American forces work daily on a shoulder-to-shoulder basis. You've seen people like Jim Stavridis, the former admiral, U.S. admiral and Supreme Allied Commander at Europe, come out in defense of Canada's military and in praising them. And so that is a part of the relationship that must remain joined up, must remain professional and respectful. And thankfully, so far, that has happened. And so when it comes to our military, I say we cannot let that relationship suffer as a result of these trade talks.
Peter MacKay, good to get your insight. Thank you very much for that. Nice seeing you.
Thank you, Todd. The same to you.
We're back in 2 minutes. Stay with us. In medical news, new data shows the number of children and adults ending up in hospital with injuries related to those e-scooters has jumped over the past year. CTV's Amanda Devison has the details in tonight's edition of The Lifeline.
New data shows the number of kids 15 years of age and under who were hospitalized for e-scooter injuries over the past year nearly tripled. The Canadian Institute for Health Information says hospitalizations for both kids and adults riding e-scooters rose by close to 40% in the past year. Data shows 150 kids in Canada required hospitalization compared to 54 children and adolescents in the previous year. CIHI's data comes weeks after the Canadian Pediatric Surveillance Program said 10 kids died from using e-scooters or e-bikes in 2025. Nova Scotia banned children under the age of 14 from riding e-scooters in 2022 and is expanding the regulations to e-bikes this fall. A new study finds at least 1 in 4 NFL players who died between 2016 and 2021 had the brain disease known as CTE. The study is published in the British Medical Journal. It focused on how common CTE might be among NFL players. What it found is that of the 878 players who appeared in at least one NFL game and died in that 6-year period, at least 25% had CTE. The degenerative disease can be diagnosed only after death, so most research has depended on brains donated by players or their families. The NFL Players Association says the study is a sobering reminder that football carries real risks, and those risks can have lasting consequences for players and their families. Finally, stateside, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has cleared a blood test to help identify signs of Alzheimer's disease in people aged 55 and older with cognitive decline. The test is a biomarker blood test that can help doctors identify patients who are likely or unlikely to have Alzheimer's-related brain changes. The FDA clearance follows European approval for the test. Current testing methods can be expensive, invasive, and less widely available. Experts say this test isn't intended to be a standalone diagnostic test, but should be interpreted alongside other clinical information. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Devison for The Lifeline.
We're on the scene with the death of another household name tonight. Actor Tim Curry has passed away at the age of 80. From Pennywise to Frankenfurter, NBC's Aaron McLaughlin looks back on Curry's life and career.
I suggest we take the cook's body into the study. Why? I'm the butler. I like to keep the kitchen tidy.
Tim Curry had a way of disappearing into his roles.
I, Georgie, am Pennywise, the dancing clown.
Delighting audiences for more than 50 years.
I'm just a sweet transvestite from trans.
His iconic portrayal of the mad scientist Dr. Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Show catapulted the unlikely stage hit to the silver screen and solidified it as a cult classic.
After I did Rocky Horror, which was one part in drag, you know what I was offered? The Brooke Shields part in Blue Lagoon.
Curry was a British actor who effortlessly crossed the line between comedy
We are a family, a single unit.
and drama, often tasked with darker roles.
The villains or the more kind of off-center people are much more interesting to play. But after a while, taking home a psychopath at the end of the day is not a lot of fun,
His renowned career began with a lie. When in 1969 he fibbed about theater credentials in order to nab his first professional part in the musical Hair, kicking off a career of dizzying range.
We have a quest.
In cinemas,
a limousine and a pizza, compliments of the Plaza Hotel.
in cartoon,
I'm afraid I've lost the sight in my eye.
Move your hand, Nigel.
What a woman.
and with a variety of co-stars.
It's one for all for one.
The actor was always shifting gears. Curry even released a few records. A stroke in 2012 left him paralyzed and limited his public appearances. But it didn't keep him from working or dreaming.
The thing that resonated for me
more than anything was don't dream it, be it.
Something he learned at the beginning.
Don't dream it, be it.
Erin McLaughlin, NBC News, Los Angeles.
The business report beginning with the Dow Jones. It closed the trading day down 113 points. And the world's most valuable company reported earnings today. Marilla Fernandez has NVIDIA's results.
Revenue rang in at over $96 billion U.S. for the quarter. That's 106% better than the same quarter last year. $89 billion of that is data center revenue. NVIDIA CEO says the AI infrastructure build-out is at full steam. But the stock moved down in after-hours trading, with the AI company's outlook failing to impress investors. Revenue for the third quarter estimated to be about $108 billion U.S., which did fall short of some projections. National Bank reported a profit of $1.3 billion for its latest quarter. The bank did set aside more money than analysts expected for credit losses, and that dragged the stock down. Grocery retailer Loblaws will once again start marking products that are affected by American tariffs. Those items will have a letter T on them. It will also use the maple leaf symbol to identify products made or grown in Canada. The grocer says it has been working to find more domestic supply chains since the start of the trade war. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 72.05 U.S. West Texas Intermediate down to 82.23 U.S. a barrel. Western Canadian Select down to 63.50, and the TSX lost 143 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Kayla Mitchell is outside with one more look at how things are shaping up.
Yeah, it's turned into a very pleasant evening here in the north end of Halifax, and it's actually turning into a pleasant evening for a good portion of the Maritimes after the showers and the thunderstorms that we had this afternoon have basically come to an end. Let's take a look at our viewer picture for tonight. So we saw some dramatic shots of that severe weather throughout our program, including some video footage of that tornado in the east of Prince Edward Island, the hail that added up in Charlottetown. So I thought we could end with more of a picturesque or a beauty shot here of the wake of some of those thunderstorms. And so we've got a big arcing rainbow here sent in by Carol Taylor, taken at St. Anne's Bay in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, following the passage of one of those thunderstorms. St. Anne's Bay for tomorrow, pretty good looking day, mix of sun and cloud expected. High temperature will be near 25 degrees. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritimes, morning temperatures mostly around the mid-teens. There might be some fog around parts of the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia and the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick. Otherwise, moving into and through the afternoon, it'll be a mix of sun and cloud with a breezy wind out of the south. A lot of high temperatures tomorrow, getting up between 24 and 27. There might be low 20s, a few parts of the coast where that wind is coming directly on shore. Let's find out what's ahead on Your Morning Atlantic.
Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic, Docs on the Dock.
We will chat with the festival director of Lunenburg Dock Fest about this year's screenings.
Start your morning with us Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Then coming up at 6, the real border battle. Murphy's Logic looks at what should be stopped from coming in from the U.S., promoting the free flow of goods, but not the guns. Steve will have words about that tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And finally for us tonight, a farmer in New England has built a tribute to Dolly Parton. This corn maze features Dolly Parton's image at a farm in Connecticut. It's 5 acres. It was planned long before the star's death, as you can only imagine, right? It's all in support of Dolly's children's literacy program. It's one of 20 across the U.S. taking part in a fall festival campaign marking the 31st anniversary of the Imagination Library. Of course, that sends free books to children from birth to 5 years old right across the U.S., many countries, including Canada. That is our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco will be here at 11:30. CTV News Atlantic.ca and the app have your updates. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you tomorrow for your local news. Till then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.